rest and come out with this banger. Remember, this is Jethro Tull and Iron Maiden. This record is it's so close to my heart. I love the first Iron Maiden record when I was a kid. It took me a good while until I put my hands on it on a record copy. I got it in recorded tape fairly early on, but this is a ferocious heavy metal record that it sounds really different from a lot of other heavy metal bands. They immediately put their stamp on a very specific tone and a very specific, it's even difficult to describe the way of playing, the attitude. And Steve Harris, of course, he's a very unique bass player. I think that Steve Harris, whether he knows it or not, he is a jazz pianist who plays bass in a heavy metal band. So he plays the bass as if it were like Weather Report or something like that, like Hero Jacob Pastorius or one of these big guy. What's the name of the Danish guy who plays the double bass, NHOP? Last name is Peterson. His first three names I don't think any human being can pronounce properly, but he played a lot with Oscar Peterson. Crazy bass player. So I think that somehow these guys were reincarnated in Steve Harris. Anyway, not enough good things to say about this record. Sounds very good. Sounds very mature for a debut album. Before this, there was actually an EP which actually was made commercially available. Very simple production. It's called the Soundhouse Tapes. Today, a real copy, not a fake copy. A real copy definitely brings in a premium if you can put your hands on it. And even fake copies go for a pretty penny. It has a couple songs on it. Iron Maiden, Prowler, and Invasion, which I think Invasion never made it to any official album. And Prowler is also the opening song of this record, and I must say, one of my favorites. Really ferocious. You got Paul Di'Anno, which kind of gives more the impression of a punk with a real raspy voice. Incidentally, I don't care for the two quieter, slower songs, Strange World and Remember Tomorrow, but you got Phantom of the Opera, which is a super classic. You have the two big anthems, Iron Maiden, the title song, and Running Free. Both of these songs are being played to this day. Charlotte the Heart, which is a great song, and Transylvania, great instrumental, kind of bass-led in the beginning. So good album, beginning to end, with two little breathers that you can rest a little bit. Remember Tomorrow and Strange World, but definitely Prowler is very high on my list. I would say Phantom of the Opera is the greatest song, and then you have the two banger anthemic songs, Running Free and Iron Maiden and Transylvania. So a must-have for anyone who's even slightly interested in heavy metal and similar kinds of music. Obviously, this record ranks very high in my ranking Iron Maiden records, as well as the fans also seem to like it very much. I think that when they have these online polls, it typically goes fairly high in the ranking. There is this kind of small live EP. It's not really a live album. There is 3-4 songs on it, but it's good to have. It's a very good snapshot of how they sounded live. This is a very simple recording, and it sounds good. It sounds raw, not high quality, but you can hear most of the band, and they sound on fire. So it's worth having. I'm not gonna say this is their greatest album, but it's cool to have this EP. Next up comes my one and only all-time favorite record, Killers. This is it's so good. I can't begin to say how good it is. The Ides of March, as soon as I heard those opening notes with the bass, it's great. It's great. In my opinion, it kind of suffers from the same thing that that the Hell Lion on Screaming for Vengeance, this should have been expanded on really the musical theme, and something bigger should have done with it. Now it's being used as the opening for Wrathchild, which is kind of an anthemic, very aggressive song. Murdered in a Rue Morgue is a good song. Another Life, I love it. Genghis Khan, an instrumental, a banger, a banger. A great one. Innocent Exile, another great song. Killers, phenomenal, phenomenal. Again, a bass intro. Prodigal Son, it's kind of okay, not the greatest. And then Purgatory and Drifter, and another two fast stompers, bangers. What can I tell you? Great musicianship from everyone. Adrian Smith makes his debut. He was in the band before they started recording, and then he left, and there was the first guitar player here was Dennis Stratton. On the EP it's already Smith, if I'm not mistaken, and he makes his recording debut here, and very good playing. Clive Burr on the drums shines pretty much. He has a good sound, good touch, good feel on the drums. Both guitar players play very well, and of course Di'Anno's vocals are very good, very matching the music. But this would be the last time that Di'Anno records with the band. He's fired after the tour for being a little bit too much exaggerating with the rock and roll lifestyle. But before we get into the changes with Maiden, let's take a look about what is happening with Tull. Anderson is also going through changes, and after Stormwatch, if you remember, released in '79, he wanted to make a solo album, which was an okay idea. In the end, of course, as usually happens, the record company pressures him to release it under the Jethro Tull name, and it didn't go down too well with fans. Whether you consider this a bona fide Jethro Tull album or an Ian Anderson album, doesn't really matter. It's a good album. There is a definite departure from the normal Tull. There is definitely a very 80s flavor to it. He brings on Eddie Jobson, the electric violin player, who was previously with UK. And as you can imagine, there's quite a strong UK flavor here, more of an aroma rather than actual flavor. So he brings in some elements, but I think this is still more a Jethro Tull record than an Ian Anderson solo album, as we shall see later on. The album, all in all, is good. It's very produced. I wouldn't say overproduced, but other people might have other ideas. So I've definitely heard the album being accused of being overproduced. There's a lot of synthesizers and effects and all kind of sound manipulation. But despite that, it's a good and solid album. Working John, Working Joe, great number. Black Sunday, very good 4-wheel drive, low ratio. The opening track, Crossfire. Like I said, Working John, Working Joe. Flying Del Flyer is okay. Protect and Survive is not bad at all. Better Is Not Included is good. Uniform. It's a good record. It's a strange, very different record for Jethro Tull enthusiasts, let's just say, or people who expect Jethro Tull to be what they want it to be. And this is a fairly common theme. Fans sometimes want certain things from the band wants something else, the management wants something else, so they roll it into something that attempts to satisfy everyone and in the end satisfies no one or few people. So such is the nature of the beast, I think. And it's a little bit ambiguous of what the band should do, the artist. Should they completely ignore any and all demands or expectations fiscally, monetarily, right, from management, or from what the fans want and do only what they want, those records tend to fall flat on their faces. And if the band is willing to take that on and to fail, especially if they finance the record on their own, then I think they should do that. But the reality is that they are being funded by management. So management puts out the money to record the album, and it's the fans who end up buying the record and going to the concert. So they kind of beholden to everybody. Nonetheless, come 1982, Jethro Tull releases this gem of a record. Also, a lot of Jethro Tull fans are pretty split on this. I think that the initial reaction of the hardcore fans, the people who were there from the beginning, they said, this is not stand up, this is not Aqualung, this is not Minstrel in the Gallery, throw it in the garbage, it's horrible, it's terrible, it's disgusting, it's been accused of being heavy metal and pandering to current trends. I could see that a little bit. It's definitely heavier than anything they put out before that. Calling this a heavy metal album, you could if you really want to. It's definitely harder produced. The guitars are kind of more distorted, harder. They're very tight recording, great songwritings. The songs are great. I love the whole aspect of the album. So for me, it's a very high-ranking Jethro Tull album. What songs stand out? Flying Colors, The Clasp, amazing. Pussy Willow, the first song on each side, Beastie and Broadsword, right? Broadsword and the Beast. Watching Me, Watching You, Seal Driver, amazing vocal performance from Anderson, and great guitar as usual from Martin Bear or Barret. A very well made album cover. The whole concept is great. I love it. Ranks very high in my book. I love the music. I play it often. This is to me very good Jethro Tull. But a lot of fans will tell you that this is not Jethro Tull. And now let's get back to our friends Iron Maiden. And they recruit a new vocalist by the name of Bruce Dickinson. By now I think everybody in the world has heard of him, even if they didn't hear him, and they released this, The Number of the Beast. This is one of the most famous records, if not the most famous, probably among non-Maiden fans. This might be the most famous record, and it has some great classics and epics. Hallowed Be Thy Name is just amazing. A crazy song to end the record with. Children of the Damned is another one. The Prisoner, that's made of an English TV series, good song. 22 Acacia Avenue, I love it. Lyrically, it's the follow-up of Charlotte the Harlot from the first record. You have the title track, The Number of the Beast. A lot of people love that song very much. I'm not the hugest fan. Run of the Mills was also a single and a big hit. And you have Gangland, which I love, I just love it. It's a great song, it's a great personal favorite. I don't know why they don't play it more often, but it's a great song. And then you have Invaders, which also a lot of fans like, but is less famous. By the way, the main theme, the melody of Invaders, comes from a Colosseum 2 song, the Desperado. If you listen to Desperado, you're gonna hear the main musical theme to Invaders. All in all, a great banger of a record. And the next one, I don't have a physical copy here on record, is Peace of Mind. A huge fan favorite. Has a lot of songs that most Maiden fans love. The follow-up to Number of the Beast. They have Big Boots to Fill, and I think they did it well because they released another one, Peace of Mind, which is a very big fan favorite. Ironically, with me, it doesn't rank that high, but that's only because Iron Maiden records are so good that not all of them can be in the top 10. But as far as fans go, Iron Maiden fans, they love Peace of Mind. It has a lot of classic songs that are fan favorites and are big hits. You have The Trooper, you have Die With Your Boots On, you have Where Eagles Dare, which is the opening track. Just a great record. My personal favorites are Still Life, which is kind of a more obscure song, if you will. I mean, I don't know if you play the record, then none of them are more or less obscure than the others, but they're not definitely not as famous as The Trooper or The Flight of Icarus, which is another big hit and single. But my personal favorite is Still Life. I love Sun and Steel, also a little bit less known. I don't know how often they played it live. I don't remember. Yeah, but again, they're all good records, great artwork as usual from Iron Maiden. Yeah, I forgot to mention that Killers is my favorite album cover overall from all albums, not just from Maiden. So very good, solid record. Great playing, great drumming, of course. Nico McBrain, who is the new drummer. Unfortunately, they let Clive Burr go. I don't even remember for what reason, but they bring in Nico, who played, I think, in a French band, Trust, if I'm not mistaken. Very technical, very versatile drummer, and it's being heard. You can hear it on Peace of Mind, especially on the opening track. He does some very cool drum techniques there. Next up, another amazing banger, Power Slave. This record is so good. It's so good. It is definitely a prime contender for being on top of the heap for Iron Maiden, and that's an accomplishment. Being on top of the heap. Has some very intricate artwork. I used to have a big version of this. I don't know what it was, a poster or something promotional, but it was definitely more than twice as big, so more than 2 feet, and you could see the illustration enlarged, and there's all kinds of funny stuff here. There's cartoons and I think some cuss words, all kinds of jokes here. So they had the same illustrator for much of their career, a guy named Derek Riggs, who put all kinds of kooky and funny things. But anyway, we're talking here about the music, right? Not so much the album cover. This is the inner sleeve. So well invested packaging. So they care about their fans. That's one of the really good things about Maiden, and I think that's why, or one of the reasons why their fans love them so much, because they definitely gives you their money's worth. I used to be in the fan club, and they had a very nice fanzine, I think it's called, a fan club newsletter, something like that. So they didn't just send you an email. Obviously, it was in the 80s, there were no email. But the fan club newsletter, whatever it was called, was really high quality. So it wasn't complete bullshit. Obviously, they had, every month they sent you something. There's nothing really to say every month. So the manager of the fan club had to write some sort of letter, but there were photos, and it was printed on good quality paper. It was well written, everything was good. So they really took care of their fans. They really prioritized them. They go out to faraway places. They go to South America and Australia, places where typically bands don't play that much. Today, the travel became much easier, and travel prices and hotels came down, and people are doing better. There's just more movement on the planet. It's also more accepted that bands travel all over the place more intensively, or they go to more remote places. But back then, it wasn't accepted, and they also went to Eastern Europe. I think this was the record where they went. They made a Iron Maiden behind the Iron Curtain. I don't know if they went to Russia, but they definitely went to Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, maybe Serbia or Bulgaria. Or back then it wasn't called Serbia, it was Yugoslavia. So really, very nice of them. They really always cared about their fans. There were bands that became very big and famous, and they concentrated mostly on the United States. They always made sure to go back to England, where they started. So That's really very, very nice of them. And they did a lot of like super nice, from a human perspective, nice things throughout the career. But back to the music again, this is one of their best records. It's really a prime contender for being number one. Favorite songs from my perspective: Back in the Village. Back in the Village. That's the hidden gem from the record, the opening riff and the solo, the intro to the solo. The intro to the solo sort of bridges you from the regular main riff melody to the solo itself, and then goes back. Like really, really good. Adrian Smith there makes a fucking amazing job there. Aces High, it's a big hit and a great song. Same thing, 2 Minutes to Midnight. Some people will tell you it's overplayed. You can't argue with that, but it's overplayed and you can over-listen to it. Not gonna hurt you. Flash of the Blade, great song, lots for words. It's without words, instrumental as they like to call it. The Duelist, great song. And then the record closer, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, just a banger. It introduced a lot of fans to classic literature, to Coleridge. They really should have done a kind of a follow-up to do Coleridge's other epic poems, right? Christabel and Kublai Khan. Kublai Khan could be really enough material, I think, for a full record if they want to do a so-called concept record, right? Ironically, the song that I don't like so much here is the title song, Power Slave. I never really connected that much with that song. It kind of doesn't make so much sense to me, but it's not really bad. But let's just say if I play it on a CD player, I would definitely skip after Back in the Village directly to Rime of the Ancient Mariner. I don't necessarily have the urge to listen to Power Slave. And this being their 5th record, they go on a huge world tour with this. This is the one where they really made it, I think, financially. So this is where everybody was making money. The band, the management, anybody involved. And they made up a huge production, a huge Eddie kind of animated or mechanized kind of a puppet or whatever you want to call it on stage. The big lights, they brought this whole intricate show, and they did this big show business. Kind of, I think they outdid Kiss with the complexity of the show, but definitely the kind of show-y type. So it's not just a band with jeans and t-shirts, but bombastic. And they recorded a live album, Live After Death, which shamefully I don't have anymore. Great live album. Of course, concentrating a lot on the last record, but they played also their classics and their older songs. There's a very good version of Phantom of the Opera. They of course play all the usual suspects, let's just say, Number of the Beast and so on and so forth, whatever you would expect. Iron Maiden, Rothschild, and so on. It's a very good live record, very well recorded, sounds good, sounds clear. You can hear the instruments. It's not muddy, and I don't think it's manipulated, not too much anyway. So it definitely belongs in that pantheon of great live records like Made in Japan and Unleashed in the East and Live and Dangerous. Very good record. Let's go back to our friend Ian Anderson, because he's getting bored and I don't want him to drink all of my Johnny Walker. Ian Anderson in 1983 releases a solo album, Walk Into Light. I don't have it anymore and I don't remember it anymore. I didn't listen to it in ages. So whatever I say about it, I'm saying from memory. It has to be a solid 10 years or more that I didn't hear that record. I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. I had it because I like Jethro Tull and I like Ian Anderson's ideas and kooky playing, and it was kind of okay. I was underwhelmed by the record. To be honest with you, I don't even remember the names of the songs. There was Fly By Night that stands out, and maybe Different Germany. And it has a lot of experimentation with synthesizers and electronic music. So not terrible. If you're a big Tull fan, give it a spin, but I don't think you have to run and buy it right now. Next up, I don't even know if I should say this, but it does have the words Jethro Tull printed on it. This abomination is being released. I feel bad saying bad things about Jethro Tull and Ian Anderson, but something happened to him. He slipped on a banana peel and he knocked his head on the pavement, or someone put his balls in a vice. This is a piece of crap that is not worthy of the name Jethro Tull. Some songs are kind of listenable, but I think overall this belongs in a barf bag. I don't even want to talk about it. But that is my opinion. One man, one opinion. There are diehard Jethro Tull fans, including people who talk shit about A and Broadsword and Stormwatch and Heavy Horses, who say that this is some genius, this is Thick as a Brick #2, this is an Aqualung #2, this is better. Again, it's a big world, there's all kinds of people, their faces are different and their ideas are different, so they have different opinions. I don't hear it. So the less we talk about it, the better. Next up, they do release, under the name Jethro Tull, a record called A Classic Case, which to my deep shame and regret and sorrow, I again don't have again. So this is my second record library that I rebuilt. It's going to be another story for another day. But at any rate, this is another one that I will have to tell you from memory. What they did is that they took an orchestration. This is when the big orchestration started to become trendy. I think I've told you this before. Whenever you see something happening and it's obvious and everybody's doing it, you have to look back 10, 20, 30, 40 years sometimes. If you remember in 69 or 70, Deep Purple released a record, Concerto for Group and Orchestra, which was one of these kooky ideas of John Lord. It could have really been released under a John Lord solo album project, but it was Deep Purple, and with a full orchestration with a famous conductor, and it's a pseudo-classical piece. And then by the late 90s, everybody was doing an orchestrated tour or an acoustic tour, Metallica, and all kinds of bands who had no business whatsoever doing things of that kind. But again, when a fad is a fad, then everybody wants a piece of the cake. Everybody wants a bite of the pie. So anyway, this is 1985, a classic case. They play some of Jethro Tull's most classic and biggest hits in an orchestrated fashion. So that was planned like this. It was recorded like this, with Ian Anderson and the rest of the band participating with an orchestra. Well worth a listen. Well worth a listen. Is it classic mainstream Jethro Tull? No, but it's very rewarding, very interesting to hear new interpretation to the songs. They do play, of course, Locomotive Breath and Too Old to Rock and Roll and the usual suspects. A lot of classic Jethro Tull records. Also has kind of a funky album cover. You see a wooden case of wine, you know, when they sell these fancy wines in these wooden cases, and it says on it a classic case. So well-made record, well produced, definitely worth a listen, especially for hardcore Jethro Tull fans. They even play Fly By Night, which is from Ian Anderson's solo record. So this brings us to 1986, and let's take a look at our good friends Iron Maiden. After the big tour, the big live album, they take a little bit rest, And in 1986, they release Somewhere in Time, which I unfortunately don't have either. And Somewhere in Time, continuing in the vein and in the fashion of Power Slave, also has a very intricate front cover, maybe a little bit too intricate, too busy, but very futuristic, and it matches well the sound. And they have some pretty big, successful TV hits. They have Wasted Years, they have the title songs, and very unusual or strange direction for the band. Some fans accuse them of selling out, similar to another band that recorded an album called Turbo in the same year, but not to that extent. So the music itself is not super commercial, it's not geared to MTV. There's just a lot of guitar synthesizers or otherwise synthesizers. So the sound is still an Iron Maiden, unmistakably trademark Iron Maiden sound, but heavily synthesized. My favorite songs from the album are Deja Vu, Loneliness of the Long Distance, Runner, Stranger in a Strange Land, and Caught Somewhere in Time. Good Alexander the Great, another epic, kind of historic, typical Iron Maiden idea. A good record, but in my book doesn't rank that high. Definitely not on par with anything that they released prior to that. Nonetheless, it was not a deception at all to listen to that record when I got it. It sounded weird, it sounded different, but it grew on me pretty fast. But it's not, in my opinion, it's not on par with the previous 5 records. However,